Hi everyone, my name is Mark. I am Jack's twin, and today we're going to take a look at another horrible case with you. On August 16th, 2016, Pamela Hupp placed a distressed call to 911 reporting a burglary in process. Pam Hupp had been a normal, scared older woman who had barely brushed past a cold-blooded death until the investigation surrounding Louis Gumpenberger's death started. Pam Hupp was born on October 20th, 1958, in Delwood, Missouri. She was the second child of the Newman family. Pam married Mark Hupp, and their union was blessed with 2 children. In 2001, they started living in Fallon, Missouri. Pam tried out a lot of jobs. Pam Hupp worked as a life administrator for State Farm until 2010 when she stopped working. She began to lay disability claims for leg and back pains. Pam had not exactly been a model citizen, as she had been accused of forging signatures on insurance documents twice. But one thing anyone who met Pam would never imagine she was capable of was cold-blooded murder. At around noon on August 16, 2016, Louis Gumpenberger died after he was shot 5 times by Pam Hupp in her O'Fannin apartment. Louis was a mentally challenged man. He had started battling with mental and physical disabilities after he suffered a car crash in 2005. That day, Pam had called 911 to complain of a robbery. She claimed that Louis had jumped out of a vehicle that was being driven by another driver and attacked her with a knife while she was inside her SUV. Pam, while giving her statement, claimed that she had slapped the knife away from his hand with a karate chop and ran straight into her house to get the Ruger LCR she had kept on her nightstand and shot him 5 times. Pam accused Louis of ordering her to drive him to the bank to withdraw Russ's money.
Hupp claimed Louis Gumpenberger attacked her in her driveway.
He goes, we're going to the bank, we're getting Russ's money, and he started getting all agitated and excited.
They soon learned Russ was Russ Faria, a man wrongfully convicted for his wife Betsy's 2011 murder.
At the crime scene, 9 notes of $100 bills were found on the deceased's body. A handwritten note addressed to the deceased was also found. In the note was an instruction on the things he needed to do at Pam's apartment. First, he had to make sure he got Russ's money. Then he would take Pam into the house, kill her, and make it look like Russ's wife did it. Whoever wanted Pam dead had wanted her life to end in a specific style. Make sure knife is sticking out of neck was his instruction to Gumpenberger. And he was willing to reward Gumpenberger handsomely for his service. He had promised the deceased a whooping sum of $10,000.
They arrested Pam Hupp for murder. We had the arrest exclusively on Fox 2. It's video you will never see anywhere else.
But had Gumpenberger really been a hired assassin? Or Pam had only taken advantage of a mentally disabled and set him up with a note she had written herself? The truth behind Gumpenberger's death started coming to the limelight when Pam voluntarily went to the O'Fallon Police Department. Her first question as soon as her interview started would later form the basis for the arrest. Pam had asked the officer if the interrogation would be recorded because she usually appeared with Chris Hayes, a KTVI news reporter. She even went as far as blaming Hayes for attracting criminals with his reporting.
I blame Chris Hayes. Why does that matter?
Well, it's hard to get into that. I think the idea that we're trying to convey and that we hope to convey at trial.
Pam Hupp loved acting as Kathy, a producer of a television show, Dateline NBC. This was in fact how she managed to brutally end Louis Gumpenberger's life. According to the Fallon chief of police and the prosecuting attorney of St. Charles County, Pam had lured Gumpenberger into her home by posing as Kathy. She tricked him into recreating a 911 call, a perfect cover for the hideous crime she was about to perpetrate. After murdering Gumpenberger, she wrote the note that was found on him.
What's the address you're at? No! Want me to you? Want me to eat your wife? No, I'm not getting in the car with you. No, get away. Get out, get out, get out. Ma'am, what's the address you're at? No.
The police firmly believed that Kathy was a cold-blooded murderer because of the bulk load of evidence they discovered. First, the $9 bills found on Gumpenberger's body were planted on him by Pam. The 10th note had been found in her dresser, and it shared a sequential serial number with 3 out of the 9 $100 bills. Then the St. Charles County Police reopened a complaint lodged on August 10, 2016, by Carol Alford about a woman who matched Pam's description. The woman had approached Alford to mimic a 911 call for $1,000. The said woman had been driving a car that matched Pam's SUV. Carol Alford wasn't the only one with that kind of complaint. Brent Harleton admitted to the police that Pam had approached him with the same offer. Less than an hour before Pam shot Gumpenberger, she was in his neighborhood. In her interview, she claimed that she had never met Gumpenberger before, but her call record showed that she had been right in front of his door. Further investigations showed that Pam owned the knife she claimed Gumpenberger attacked her with. She had bought the knife alongside other items at a store in O'Fallon, even the note she had planted on him. Pam had a habit of keeping her knife wedged in between her kitchen counter and stove. Similarly, the knife found in her car was lodged in between the passenger seat and the central console. While combing her home, the police found a carpet swatch placed to protect her rug from Gumpenberger's blood. Moreover, the police department did not believe that Louis Gumpenberger could commit the crime Pam accused him of considering his mental state. Pam's guilt.
She shot Gumpenberger as if to protect the rug underneath from blood.
On August 23, 2016, Pam Hupp was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and armed criminal action. On the day of her arrest, she asked for permission to use the restroom. Pam stabbed her wrist and neck with a ballpoint in an attempt to take her own life. Thankfully, she did not succeed. She appeared in court for the first time on January 30, 2017. Phil Groenwayne, St. Charles County Assistant Prosecutor, described Pam's action as a consciousness of guilt. Pam faced a grand jury that convicted her of every charge in December 2016. Pam's bail was set to $2 million. Pam's trial started in 2017. She pleaded not guilty, which made the persecutors gun for the death penalty. Their reason was Pam's arbitrary choice of Gumpenberger as the victim. In June 2019, Pam entered an Alford plea. Her request for a jury trial nullified the death penalty charge. After she pleaded guilty, she was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole in August 2019. After her sentence, Pam contacted her then-husband, Matt Hupp. In a phone call, she told him that she had admitted to killing Louis Gumpenberger because she did not want their family to witness an ugly trial. During the trial, a darker side of Pam was uncovered. A very horrifying truth that sent chills down the spines of the police, judges, and the whole country. In June 2016, Judge Cunningham ruled that the prosecutor could present evidence related to the gruesome end of Becky Faria in court. This led to the reopening of the Becky Faria's case. Betsy Faria, originally born Elizabeth K. Meyer. Faria lived in Troy, Missouri. She worked with Pam in State Farm as a life insurance administrator. She lived on Sumac Drive with her husband, Russ Farris, and her 2 daughters from a previous relationship. In 2010, Betsy was diagnosed with cancer. In October 2011, she realized that the cancer had metastasized to her liver, and she had a few months to live. Before her horrifying death, on December 22, 2011, Betsy had changed the sole beneficiary of her life insurance worth $150,000 to Pam Hupp. She had removed her husband from the sole beneficiary without informing him or her daughters. Pam claimed that Betsy had instructed her to put the money in a trust fund for her daughters until they got older. Later, Pam said that Betsy wanted her to keep the money for herself, as she and her had been secret lovers before she died. Betsy's daughter grew salty and dragged Pam to court in 2014. Their attempt to win their mother's life insurance fund from Pam and her husband, Matt, was kicked out of court in 2016. Russ took the State Farm to court in 2016. On December 27, 2011, 5 days after she made Pam Hupp the sole beneficiary of her life insurance fund, Betsy went to the Alvin J. Siteman Cancer Center for a chemotherapy session. Weakened from the treatment, she went to her mother's house. The agreement was that Russ would pick her up from her mother's place, or she would sleep over. Pam suddenly showed up at Betsy's mother's house. She insisted on driving Betsy home. She claimed that she dropped her off at home at around 7 p.m. Betsy's daughter claimed her mother missed her call at approximately 7:21 p.m. By 9:40 p.m., Russ placed a distressed call to 911 that his wife, Betsy, had committed suicide. Russ had been at his friend Michael Corbin's house watching movies from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. He then drove to Arby's Lake in St. Louis before returning home. The first responders arrived around 10 minutes after Russ's call. One look at Betsy's corpse, and they concluded that it was absolutely ridiculous to assume that she committed suicide. Betsy was found lying on her right side. She had been stabbed 55 times, and her wrist had been cut to the bone. A kitchen knife was also sticking out of her neck. Another knife was found under her pillow. No blood traces or footprints were found around the entrance of the house. Betsy's time of death was confirmed to be between 7:20 p.m. and 9:41 p.m. Fingers were immediately pointed to Russ Faria. Russ became the main suspect. The authorities believed that he had a motive as his wife had denied him access to $150,000. Russ Faria was arrested and charged with the murder of his wife, while the real murderer was walking around freely. Russ Faria was arrested a day after Betsy's death. He was the prime suspect because he had reported a case of suicide during his 911 call. However, one look at the body of Betsy, and anyone would know it was far from a suicide. Also, a pair of blood-stained slippers were found in his closet.
Russ, this is not suicide. This isn't a random killing. This is a crime of passion.
I did not do this. I'm telling you, I did not do this.
They also said Betsy's best friend, Pam Hupp, said there were issues in their marriage.
Russ was charged in court in January 2012, a day after his wife's burial, for first-degree murder and armed criminal action. While the investigation was still on, Russ had failed a polygraph test woefully. His demeanor was confirmed suspicious and erratic by this police. Also, at Pam's behest, the police searched Betsy's laptop and found a Word document about her fear of losing her life in her husband's life. Russ's bail was set to $250,000. Being unable to pay, he was remanded to the county jail until his trial on November 18, 2013. During an interview with the police, Pam mentioned that Russ had a violent personality and was a heavy drinker, and he had threatened Betsy before. It was easy to pin the murder on him. What more could get a man angry than his wife bypassing him for a whooping sum of $150,000 for her friend? Russ had a motive, and that was all that mattered to Judge Christina Menemeyer. Russ's trial began, and it was an ugly process. His attorney, Joel Schwartz, argued Russ's innocence. He had claimed that Russ had been with his friends most of the night. His friends confirmed that he had been with him. Also, Russ had bought food at a store that night, so it was impossible for him to stab his wife 55 times within that time frame. And there were no bloodstains on his clothes and body. The prosecuting attorney counter-argued that Russ's friends were complicit in his crime, as they had lied about him being with them that night, and they had gone to Abstee to buy food and pose as Russ. The presiding judge, Christina Menemeyer, did not allow Joel Schwartz to present evidence implicating Pam as an alternative suspect. Even though Schwartz had strong evidence like Pam's call history, which showed that she was still around Betsy's apartment 30 minutes after that time she claimed to leave, and Betsy had made her the sole beneficiary of her life insurance fund of $150,000 5 days before her death. Pam Hupp glaringly had a motive, but the judge chose to ignore it. In a closed hearing, she claimed that she put $100,000 of the insurance money into a trust fund for Betsy's daughters, but in a July civil deposition, she admitted that she had kept the money for herself.
She didn't want her daughters to have the money. She didn't want her mom to have the money, her sisters to have the money.
So it was your impression that she wanted you to have the money. Is that right?
That's correct.
Hupp said she only made it look like Faria's girls would get the money by setting up a trust.
Police asking me if I did it, I should do it, it would help their case.
A detective of Lincoln County Sheriff's Office, Mike Merkel, reported that a crime scene camera had stopped working and important photographs could not be developed. With all the odds standing against Russ, in November 2013, was convicted of first-degree murder and armed criminal action. He was sentenced to life imprisonment and an extra 30 years without parole.
Just before Faria's second trial, Schwartz finally obtained the photos, which showed no blood trail.
I have tried to this day to figure out who within that office specifically sent them to me, and I have been unsuccessful.
Fox 2 was in the courtroom for the dramatic moment when Schwartz revealed that he had the evidence police and prosecutors were hiding.
Russ was whisked off to the Jefferson City Correctional Center. This was a welcome development in the Bestie Pam camp. Betsy's sister during the trial had mentioned how horribly pained Russ had been when his wife removed his name from the insurance policy. She testified that he had pressed a pillow against her face, whispering, "This is what it feels like to die." Schwartz, while cross-examining her, reminded the court that the story had been originally narrated by Pam, but as usual, the judge turned a blind eye. Russ's friends had been labeled accessories to murder during this trial. Oblivious to the fact that the persecuting lawyer had implicated them with her closing speech, Russ's friends were lucky that no charges were brought against them. After Russ Faria had spent close to 4 years locked up, in February 2015, his attorney Joel Schwartz appealed the conviction. However, in 2013, Judge Christina Menemeyer rejected Schwartz's request to review the case. In 2014, KTVI collaborated with the St. Louis Post-Dispatch newspaper to revisit the case. Their discoveries brought a lot of shady facts about Betsy Faria's death and who her true killer was. Pam Hupp had contradicted herself twice in an interview with the police. They uncovered how Pam had lied about not being inside the Faria's residence. In one of her interviews, she claimed she left as soon as she dropped Betsy off. Also in 2013, the KTVI and St. Louis Post-Dispatch newspapers discovered that Pam had not put Betsy's life insurance money in a trust fund for her daughters as she had claimed. The fact that Pam was completely forgotten about in the murder case was not only shocking to Schwartz and Russ, but some members of the Lincoln County Sheriff's Department had also been confused as to why Pam was not being investigated as a possible suspect in the case. In an interview, an officer had shared how shocked he was when no one was looking in Pam's direction. Everyone had been fixated on Russ. The KTVI and St. Louis Post-Dispatch newspapers shared a testimony of the 911 operative who spoke to Russ on the day he made the call. The operative thought Russ had been genuinely shocked and agitated. 2 members of the jury admitted to the jury that the information had been withheld from them. This leaves one wondering why the sheriff's department would deliberately withhold important information that is in Russ's favor. The media, in their article about the Faria murder case, exposed the prosecuting attorney, Askey. Askey had put in quite the work to make sure Russ got locked up. It was alleged that she had been in a relationship with the captain of investigations in the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office, Mike Lang. Askey was also in a relationship with one of the lead investigators in the murder case, and as well as a persecuting witness. All this information brought to public notice helped Schwartz get a retrial. In February 2015, the Missouri Court of Appeal transferred the case back to the 45th Circuit Court for rehearing. The trial began on a favorable note for Schwartz as a new judge took over the case. Judge Christina Menemeyer excused herself from the case in June. The new judge, Stephen Omer, granted a new bench trial due to the new evidence presented, and he also released Russ on bond pending the trial. Schwartz was allowed to present incriminating evidence against Pam. Some police officers admitted that Pam had told them that she saw Russ in a car with another man while she was on her way to drop Betsy off. The CSI agent who had handled the crime scene, Amy Buettner, said she honestly believed that Russ Faria's blood-stained slippers had been a setup. She thought the blood stain found on the slippers was not a result of stepping into blood. Russ Faria was acquitted of all charges and released on November 7, 2015. In July 2026, he filed a lawsuit against Askey and 3 deputy sheriffs for ignoring exonerating evidence, fabricated evidence, and failing to investigate the other possible suspect.
I was surprised. I knew everybody was trying to get me out, but I didn't know it would be this soon. You know, they come back and told me to pack my stuff, so I kind of figured I was going. I was just got off the phone trying to call my mom. So.
He's out on a $500,000 bond, put up by family members, including cousin Mary Anderson.
When asked why Pam Hupp was never investigated as a suspect in the murder case, Askey admitted that she believed that Pam was physically unable to carry out such a violent crime. Bestsy's daughter confirmed that that was the exact response they got from the detectives they approached concerning Pam being a possible suspect in the case. Russ won the case in 2020. He was awarded a $2 million settlement. Joel Schwartz also filed a bar complaint against Asker. It was rejected by the Office of the Chief Disciplinary Counsel in 2016. Ashley, in a press conference in 2017, announced that she was ready to work with the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Missouri in a review of Betsy Farias. She also requested that the Lincoln County Commissioner carry out an independent investigation into her conduct. She was not found guilty of any misconduct. However, Judge Christina Menemeyer did not share the same luck. The KTVI uncovered some dirty secrets about Judge Menemeyer and her past trials. In January 2027, she was suspended for misconduct in a different case. Judge Menemeyer and Aschke were voted out of office in 2018 for gross misconduct and mishandling the Betsy Farias murder case. In June 2019, Lincoln County appointed a new attorney. Mike Wood, upon resumption, announced that he would be reopening the Betsy Farias murder case. He confessed that the case and the wrong conviction of Russ Farris had inspired him to take up the job. He announced after Pam Hupp requested an Alford plea for the death of Louis Gumpenberger. In October 2019, Wood requested a case review by the Major Case Squad of Greater St. Louis. Mike Wood was not the only one inspired by Betsy Farias' case. The new Lincoln County Sheriff, Rick Harrell, shared how much the case had influenced his decision to run for the job. In 2020, Wood announced that the COVID-19 pandemic was slowing the trial process. However, he shared that he hoped that the process would start fully soon. In 2021, Pam was interrogated as a suspect in the murder of Betsy Faria for the first time. In July 2021, Wood charged Pam Hupp to court for the first-degree murder of Betsy Faria, an armed criminal action. In an interview, he shared that he was going for the death penalty. He said that he wanted the death sentence for Pam because of the heinousness and depravity of the crime. Betsy Faria had been stabbed 55 times, and her wrist had been sliced off almost completely. Wood condemned the act as animalistic. He charged Pam with court based on the fact that she had motive and the other strong incriminating evidence found. Pam Hupp had been named the beneficiary of a $150,000 life insurance policy a few days before Betsy's horrifying death. Pam had given her word to put the money in a trust fund for Betsy's daughter, according to Betsy's final wishes. Pam had not only lied about putting the money in a trust fund, she claimed the money for herself. She argued that Betsy had asked her to keep the money for herself. Pam, in an interview with some policemen of Lincoln County Sheriff offices, claimed that she and Betsy had been lovers. In 2021, Pam's company lent her son over $120,000. Pam betrayed her friend in her death.
She had a mad crush on me. She really, really, really loved me at that time. And it just kept growing from that.
Pam claimed Betsy pressured her.
She started indicating that she wanted more from me than just, a friend. And it's just not going to happen.
Mike Wood believed that Pam murdered her friend, Betsy Faria. He was convinced that Pam had stabbed Betsy with a kitchen knife while she was asleep on the sofa. Betsy had been weakened from the chemotherapy treatment. After stabbing Betsy 55 times, Pam took off her socks and used it to walk around the room to spread her footprints in order to give an impression of domestic violence. In the court case filed against Pam, the evidence gathered against Pam and linking her to the murder of Betsy Faria was included. In the case file, Pam had sent a text message saying she was home to Betsy's phone by 7:20 p.m., but her call records show that she was in fact still within the Farias' residence. Betsy was lying on her side when she was found. According to Wood, this showed that she was murdered by someone she trusted. He believed that Pam had insisted on driving Betsy home despite the fact that she had already arranged transportation so she could take her life. In July 2021, Hupp pleaded not guilty to the crime. In February 2022, a preliminary hearing was set up, but it was postponed indefinitely as Pam's attorney died of a heart attack. In October 2023, Lincoln County announced that Pam's trial would start fully in 2025, and it was going to last around a month. Mike Wood did not only have it in store for Pam Hupp, he also had something in store for the Lincoln County persecutors. Wood believed that the case had been mismanaged right from the beginning. The persecutors showed a gross bias against Russ Faria. Also, during the second trial of Russ, The persecutors had been working hard, but not to get justice. They were working to save their own faces. They were fighting to protect their own civil liability rather than finding out the truth. Wood pointed out a destruction order issued in November 2015. The order could have led to the destruction of evidence connected to the case. Russ Faria was lucky it had not been mentioned. Had it been actioned, his release would have been impossible.
He's talking about this document under previous Sheriff John Cottle, dated November 2015. It says, disposal of property or evidence for the Faria murder case, destruction order. Fox 2 obtained it around the same time Wood's investigator found out.